Aloha and welcome to the Hawaii Reopening Consortium webinar. This is the sixth of a series of 8 webinars happening every Tuesday. My name is Toby Tamai and I'm president of a local agency called AT Marketing, and I voted.
And my name is Sandy Santiago Narvaez, and I am the Director of Sales and Marketing for the Ritz-Carlton Residences Waikiki Beach, and I also voted. This series is a collaboration between the Travel Industry Management International and the Shidler College of Business Administration Alumni Association. The idea of this series was born from a simple discussion that evolved into the realization of a need. We needed to hear from our leaders in our various industries. We needed them together, united, and we needed their help in determining our own plans to reopen successfully. But ultimately, this series is about what you need. So please, if you have any questions for our panelists, go ahead and drop them in our Q&A box. Our moderators will monitor your questions and select as many as possible to review at the end of our webinar.
These webinars are offered at no cost by the 2 alumni associations. They are designed to stimulate ideas for solutions that can be implemented by key tourism leaders, large and small business owners, employees working in the tourism industry, college students studying in the travel industry or related fields, and the general public. Topics include tourism, health, and safety, an update from airline and hotel industries, restarting businesses in retail and dining, and a special webinar focused on recovery of tourism from Japan. The goal of these seminars is to deliver information that can save small businesses, save jobs, and provide hope to attendees with positive and forward-thinking messages.
Additionally, the Shidler College of Business recently started a new virtual fundraising campaign called Shidler Strong. Proceeds raised will help us to provide critical funds for our students and our programs and help us to perpetuate a legacy of excellence for the college. If Shidler has touched your life or you are receiving value from these webinars, we encourage you to give what you can. No gift is too small, and it helps us to move forward in creating a bright future for our community. Together, we can help keep Shidler strong.
Each of these seminars feature a UH Shidler College of Business or Travel Industry Management restaurant that is owned or managed by an alumni. Today's restaurant is the Chef's Box by Waihata. The Chef's Box includes a variety of heat and eat chef-prepared dishes that can be ordered and picked up on Wednesdays and Saturdays at Waihata, and they also deliver.
I would also like to mention the producers behind this webinar today, Evan Leong, CEO of Brain Gain Hawaii, and Buddy Leong, Executive Director of Virtual Student Experiences. Now let's meet our moderators today. Both of our moderators today work in the retail industry and are on the board of directors for the UH Shidler College of Business Alumni Association. Masa Ito is a leasing representative and principal broker for Brookfield Properties Retail and is responsible for permanent leasing at Ala Moana Center and Prince Kuhio Plaza in Hilo. Scott Rasak is the Chief Operating Officer of Jocor Distro. Welcome to the retail panel, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sandy, for the introduction. I'm excited to be here as part of the discussion today. We have a great lineup of speakers to address the current retail environment in regards to reopening to tourism.
Yeah, wonderful to be here as well. I want to introduce our first speaker, Tina Yamaki. She's the president of the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. Tina is a lead advocate of the voice of the retail industry in government and the community. Retail Merchants of Hawaii membership consists of everyone from small locally owned retailers, national big box retailers, nonprofit resellers, luxury retailers to shopping center malls. She has been in the position since September 2016. Previously, Tina was the executive director of the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association. Tina is a graduate of the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and mahalo for being on the call today, Tina. With that, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Aloha, and thank you for having me. It's such an honor. I'm a proud graduate, like I said, of the University of Hawaii. But let me give you some background about retail. So pre-COVID-19, retail was the nation's largest private sector employer, driving the US economy and supporting 52 million jobs in communities across the country. So that breaks down to about 21.6 thousand retail establishments in Hawaii. 27% of jobs in Hawaii are supported by the retail industry, which equates to about 247,000 jobs. And we also want to note that $18.2 billion is what the total impact is on Hawaii's GDP here. And retail has been revolving over the past few years. mostly in part to customer demands. Customers were shopping more with emotions and wanted more meaningful purchases and experience, and was more engaging and entertaining. Retailers realized that old business models of only focusing on in-store and online products being sold was passé, and they started going beyond the traditional loyalty programs. This is where retailtainment was born. This is where customer experience is one that is both enticing, enriching, and fun for the customer. What was once a traditional store now may feature a medical clinic, a bar with a big screen television to show sporting events, showcase demonstrations, offer services like facials and hairstyling while using products that they sell, have a DJ spin fabulous music, hold exclusive FOMO events, and more. And one of the retail's biggest problems in the beginning of this year was trying to find qualified employees to fill these positions. Then in March, everything kind of came to a screeching halt when COVID-19 came to Hawaii, and everything changed. While retailers like grocery, home improvement, electronics, and drugstores were deemed essential and could remain open, the non-essential retailers had to close their doors, first in March and then again on Oahu in August. So we recognize that Hawaii's retailers have been on the front line of the pandemic since the beginning and always maintained the health and safety of employees and customers. And that was always been our primary objective, from distribution centers all the way into our brick and mortar stores. RMH has put together guidelines that included a checklist for retailers that were based on the National Retail Federation's recommendations that were developed in accordance with the CDC guidelines and benchmarked between leading retailers who have shared their operational experiences. And like so many businesses, retailers have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal protection equipment, from plastic sneeze guards between cashier and customers, hand sanitizers, face masks, social distancing markers, and also wellness checks for the employees, just to name a few. And retailers who are normally competitors 365 days out of the year have been now learning from each other through this crisis and sharing best practices and protocols. Some got creative with their signage and showed proper ways to use a mask. Don't use it, put it on your head, don't use it as a chin guard, but cover your nose and mouth. Others created characters or flowers to show safe distancing. Some customized the scents of their hand sanitizers to tropical smells, and others created face masks with their logos and special designs. The first shutdown forced many retailers to alter their business plan to online sales, because their stores were shut down and people couldn't go in there. So many had to update and expand their platform, upload hundreds of products, and figure a way to maintain their inventory and inventory counts, as well as shipping logistics, especially those to foreign countries. More retailers made moves to leverage their stores as a distribution center to fill online orders. Retailers could not use professional photographers because they were deemed non-essential. So what they did was retailers learned how to style the shoots, take photos of their merchandise using employees as models, and posting the photos on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook stories, to name a few. They also showcase stories showing perfect outfits during COVID to work at home, exercise in, to lounge at home while binge watching shows or go on Zoom calls, or where we're doing fun activities with the families. These stories were between 5 and 10 seconds long, because anything longer than that, you lose the customer's interest. Retailers also did educational type videos on YouTube on how to make their products, showcase what the ingredients or materials or products came from, on cooking demonstration, and using products on how to put together styles. They did social media ads and emails saying, if you can't come to us, we can ship you our specials. And some even turned to creating and upgrading an app for their store that went beyond buying online to sending custom messages, coupons, or product-related alerts straight to the customer's phones. Online sales allowed many businesses to stay afloat during the first shutdown, along with some PPP loans and grants. The second shutdown on Oahu hit retailers really hard, as they were not allowed to sell online unless they were able to do this from home. RMH was presented the city with guidelines for phone and online sales, but it was not accepted, and that's why online sales were not allowed. Help for businesses were scarce during the second shutdown, and only county level help was available, but it was only for very small businesses. Hawaii's unemployment is at an all-time high, and many people's salaries have been reduced or they are unemployed, or their unemployment has run out. We're seeing that they have limited amount of funds to spend, and shoppers are very price conscious and list shopping. Hawaii is heavily dependent on tourism and its major effect on retailers. It's the story of the $20 bill. You all know it. Visitors come to Hawaii and pay for their hotel room with their $20 bill. The hotel pays a front desk agent with a $20 bill. The front desk clerk takes that $20 bill and pays for a plate lunch. The lunch wagon owner takes a $20 bill and buys vegetables from the local farmer. The local farmer takes a $20 bill, pays the truck driver to deliver the vegetables to the market. The truck driver takes a $20 bill and buys shoes for his child. If there's no visitors, there's no $20 to be passed around to our local businesses. And with tourism basically shut down for 7 months, there were no customers in the resort areas and retailers were not willing to open until tourism reopened. With tourism now reopened, some retailers are still unable to open. Many hotels statewide had not opened on October 15 and looking to open later in the month, next year, or some are even unsure when they're going to reopen. Majority of hotels have retail stores on their property. And when a hotel is closed, retail stores are also closed until the hotel decides to reopen. Other retailers are waiting for more tourists to arrive. We've heard of one company where on the second day, they had 5 customers come into the store. They didn't buy anything. They just had 5 people walk into the store. And if they have multiple locations, they're opening only a few to test the waters. Holiday season is upon retailers and the new norm will be different this year. Retailers expecting lower growth than last year. It's predicted that 1 to 1.5% increase in total consumer spending from November to January. And Deloitte's annual holiday forecast predicts that seasonal online sales will grow between 25 to 35% as compared to last year at 14.7. CoreSite's poll last month showed that 7 in 10 respondents says they're shifting from their spending from services to retail products because of COVID restrictions. Gift cards and electronics still top the list of holiday wants. And traditionally, Thanksgiving weekend, we all know, is Black Friday, with doorbuster deals followed by more customers and all shopping online. But what we're going to see is that's going to change. Black Friday will not disappear, but be more into gray November. Black Friday deals have already begun in October and will continue through November. Many stores have opted to close on Thanksgiving. Items are on sale longer. Stores are limiting the number of customers because of state and city orders. And doorbuster and early morning 5 a.m. openings are going to be very few. E-commerce, curbside, and mobile usage are likely to explode. Buy online or BOPIS and e-channels are trending this year now. Retail expect lines of customers waiting for store openings to be replaced by long queues of cars eagerly waiting to buy online pickup curbside purchases to be placed in their vehicles. According to Power Research Holiday Consumer Survey, 55% of consumers say they'll use curbside pickup more this year than they did last. At some point, ordering goods online at time for Christmas, usually around the 20th to the 24th of December, becomes a logistical impossibility due to shipping. But this year, people can buy online and pick up at the store to complete their last minute shopping. The best holiday kept secret is that many stores in the resort areas are open on the 25th. So if you forget to buy somebody for that or present for that significant other, you still have a chance. And today, retailers are facing our greatest challenge, with many retailers in critical condition and the need of life support to survive. Every week we hear in the media of another known retailer permanently closing their doors or were not able to survive the pandemic. For the small mom and pop retailers closing, there will be no fanfare or media coverage. We encourage everyone to support local retailers or if ordering online and picking up in store. Stores in Hawaii provide jobs for many of our family and friends and neighbors. So please buy local. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Tina. That was a very informative overview of the retail industry. It sounds like now's the time to try and find some of those deals from the local retailers. Our next speaker is Paul Kosasa. He's the CEO and president of ABC Stores. Paul is responsible for the real estate activities and general operations of the company. ABC Stores is a locally owned business founded by his parents, Sidney and Minnie Kosasa, in 1949. He serves on a variety of boards, including Central Pacific Bank, Waikiki Business Improvement District, Hawaii Food Industry Association, and many others. Aloha, Pa, and welcome to the conversation.
Yep. Thank you. So, hey, Tina, here's your $20. It goes a long way. First, I want to thank the Shidler Alumni Association for putting this on, and especially a thank you to Waihata and the Chef Box, because we are involved in the Chef Box and producing some of the goodies that go into that box. So take advantage of it. It not only supports Waihata and the local industry, it supports us too. So as probably the audience may already be aware of ABC Stores, we're in ground zero of every resort area in Hawaii. We have 80 stores and 2 restaurants. And pre-COVID, our business was pretty healthy. I mean, tourism was experiencing a very strong year in 2019. And as the year ended, we were looking forward to another repeat of a great year. And then, unfortunately, the pandemic happened, and at the end of March, when the governor had instituted his 14-day quarantine to all travelers, tourism basically had shut down completely. And for all of us, where our butter is bread, our butter is on the bread is from visitor spending. It was a disaster. We closed almost all our stores immediately, but then reopened a few to serve our community in the resort areas, because there are residents that live and still have work. And so even though we opened some of those stores, we were losing money. Every store loses money. Because it's when you're comparing the influx of visitors of 30,000 visitors per day versus probably our transactions were probably about 100 to 200 customers per day. You can't make money on that. So that was the situation at the time, and we always thought that this disease would, not be a long-term thing, that it would be just a couple months, and then we'll get back on our feet again. And so we tried to plan on reopening when the visitors started to come back. But as you know, plans change. So what had happened was that the disease infection rates started to continue. The 14-day quarantine kept being extended over and over again, and it did not look like it was going to be back to normal. And so there's a couple things that happen in that type of situation. One is the morale of our employees. We furloughed most of our employees, but tried to bring some of them back. But as time goes on, the morale starts to deteriorate because you don't see any so-called light at the end of the tunnel. So my job primarily was to keep motivating our people in the stores that were open, and try to explain to them to stay positive, that this time is only temporarily, this pandemic, and that we should just focus on trying to do the business that we can. And that's a tough job. The second thing is that our suppliers are in the same situation as Tina had mentioned. Our suppliers and wholesalers, to give an example, they have orders 3 to 6 months in advance, and these are containers of merchandise, from textiles to woods to food items. And so when the shutdown happened, our suppliers just had a ton of merchandise in their warehouses, and nobody was ordering it. The hotels had shut down, we had shut down, and so they had all this inventory tied up. And the same for us in our stores. We had tremendous amount of inventory that were sitting on the shelves, and inventory is money. And so we tried to run promotions, try to run specials, but it was very, very difficult. We ended up disposing of products that seemingly would have 1 year expiration dates, but after about 6 months, it's too close. Uh, so we work with our suppliers and our partners to see what we can get to stay to minimize our expenses. But it is to this day still brutal. So there's the supply chain that became a problem. Um, Tina also mentioned some of the situations in Waikiki that where there's the homeless population, and crime gets more exacerbated. And so just I would say recently, within the past month or so, as unemployment insurance starts to thin out, people are getting desperate, and we're seeing more crimes committed in our stores, to the extent that even our employees get threatened. And so as this pandemic goes on, it's gonna be rough. And people say to pivot and adapt to the new normal, and those kinds of things. But in Hawaii, being on an island where we don't have like the contiguous U.S. 48 states where people can travel freely, it's a difficult situation. To give an example, our Las Vegas stores are open. We have 6 stores in Las Vegas. Vegas, they well, they just their infection rates are not good, but they're open. Um, and so those stores are performing okay. They're decent. We got all our employees back. They're all working. Business is relatively good. Everybody's practicing social distancing. They're all wearing their masks. And hopefully we don't have any infections in our stores. But so far, so good. Hawaii, unfortunately, is a little different because of our island state. So the only thing that we could have done, that we are doing, our online sales is good. It's healthy, but it's such a small percentage compared to the rest of our chain. Like I said, we have 80 locations. We have 51 open right now. We have 2 restaurants. They're both open, Basalt and Lineage. Lineage being on Maui. That's a struggle too. And particularly restaurant business, it is brutal because you have limited capacity, and you only allowed 5 people per dining cluster. So it's it's really difficult to make any money. So I would say most or almost all restaurants are losing money. Liquidity is the key. So how to survive for the rest of how long this thing goes is to the extent that you can convert your inventory to cash. And for many retailers, time is running out. I think there's only so much that you can do to stay liquid. So we negotiate with our landlords, we negotiate with financial institutions to the extent that they provide some forbearance is good, but not all landlords are alike. Some are seem to be out of touch with reality. They stay firm. They want all their rent as if it was pre-pandemic, and it doesn't make any sense. For ABC stores, we are in the hospitality business. That's what makes us successful. The visitor industry is an ecosystem where, as Tina had mentioned, as each visitor spends $1 that goes into our cash register, it funds employment, it funds our taxes that we pay from that, funds public education, our healthcare systems, um, culture and arts, construction. It funds everything, and that's our major economy right now, and that's why we lobbied really hard with the governor to reopen tourism. And it's a trickle, but it's better than nothing. And hopefully this week or next week, I think the Japanese reopens. We're not expecting anything substantial, but it is something, and it does provide a little bit of a morale boost. Um, so those are some of the challenges that we're faced with. I feel for our fellow retailers and restaurants. Um, you just read about Alan Wong closing permanently. There's many more that will, and it's unfortunate because many of these merchants may not ever come back, and so we have a big task ahead of us. My role is to make sure that we have enough liquidity to stay afloat. So far, so good. We opened a few more stores as visitors came back, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the visitor count will increase. And I also keep my fingers crossed that our infection rates do not get over 100. I don't know if we can get into tier 3, but tier 2 is a start. And I hope that we can remain vigilant, wear your masks, keep social distancing, um, sanitize, wash your hands. I think if everybody does their part, then I think we at least will have a good slow recovery. Forecasting, I don't think we get back to normal in a year. And maybe 6 months from now, we should be maybe 50%. It depends on the hotel occupancies. Um, our decision in opening stores is based on hotel occupancies. If hotels can get up to the 30 to 50% occupancy rate, then we would open a store, reopen our store. If not, probably our stores that are closed will remain closed. Um, thus far, we never closed. We haven't closed a store permanently so far. So I'll knock on wood that we don't. So I want to thank the Shidler Alumni Association for hosting this, and I wish the best of luck to all the people that are listening. That if you're in a business, that you can make it through. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul, for the overview there. Clearly, as any brand in Hawaii comes to mind for chain retail, for hospitality, ABC Stores is one of those brands. So we have faith in your leadership and look forward to talking more about that in the panel discussions. So moving on, our next speaker is Sam Shankus. Sam is the Vice President and Director of Marketing for Royal Hawaiian Center. Sam is responsible for strategic planning and implementation of marketing, advertising, social media, and promotional programs, as well as merchant, public, and community relations for the center. Sam has been with Royal Hawaiian Center since 2007. She also works on corporate marketing responsibilities for the shops at Wailea on Maui and River Oaks District in Houston, Texas. So thanks for joining us today, Sam. With that, you can go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. Hello. Very nice to see you. Very good to be with you today. What I would like to cover is go into some more detail on the COVID, the PPE protocols of the shopping center industry, and then go into some marketing pivots that the shopping center industry is doing here locally. We're going to start, the Hawaii Tourism Japan created a fabulous video targeting the Japanese market. And we're going to take about 2 minutes of that video that showcase the shopping center industry, what we have been doing collectively for the health and safety of our customers. So do you want to start with that video right now?
Press star 6 to mute or unmute yourself. Press star 9 to raise your hand.
Okay, so as you saw in that video, it's very, very important strategically for Hawaii that we project and instill in our visitors that they're safe. And so you notice in that video, the social distancing, the signage, the shopping center industry, we have very, very high protocols where all high touch surfaces, elevator buttons, escalator rails, chairs, tables, and food courts, high traffic areas, high traffic touch points, they are wiped down and sanitized on an hourly basis. We have hand sanitizer, we have hand sanitation stations all around our properties. And we have, it's called a sanitation mister. And we have those for large areas, particularly in our food courts and in large areas that you can hit large flooring. You have signage, you have decals, we have signage on the floors, we have signage on the furniture because currently people are not allowed to sit down on anything. So we also have signage on all of our furniture, and that helps to remind the customer to distance. And it also, quite frankly, helps the employees as they're going around the property. Food courts are very, very meticulously sanitized. After a customer leaves a table, the table and the chair are totally wiped down and sanitized. We also have learned that shopping centers need to have curbside pickup. We all have dedicated parking stalls that we have created for park and go, for shop and pick up. If you order online and you have a designated parking stall where you can drive in, pick up your item, and quickly leave, our park and go stalls are reserved 24/7, and our security enforces them. At Ala Moana, Roberts Hawaii has a new store-to-door program. If you don't want to leave your home, you can order through Roberts. They will pick up your item and they will bring it to you. Also, they have a spot holder app that they're testing where if you know there's gonna be a line, you can go in and you can reserve a time to be in line. It's very similar to what Apple does, where you call and you make an appointment for your Apple Genius Bar, and you have a designated time to go. But this app, it's many stores. Um, Marketing is also very, very important as we're dealing with COVID and dealing with families, customers, and particularly children. Halloween is a huge, huge event. And many of us in the shopping center industry, we felt it was very, very important to create fun, interactive, virtual, or safe in a car Halloween activities. So many shopping centers had virtual keiki costume contests. So you registered, you went online and you uploaded your pictures, and there was judging and fun as a total virtual experience. At Royal Hawaiian Center, on the 25th of October, we had coordinated 10 different costume characters, superheroes, fairy tale characters, and we lined them up on the sidewalk of Royal Hawaiian Avenue. And it was a drive-by. So people could come down, put their kids in the car with their costumes on, and just have a family-friendly outing where you could drive into Waikiki, drive along Royal Hawaiian Avenue, and see costume characters. We thought, well, maybe we'll get a couple hundred cars. We had over 800, maybe 900 cars with between 4 and 6 p.m. The cars were backed up all the way to where Kalakaua and Ala Moana Boulevard merge. And the families were so happy and the kids were so excited, and it was safe. Everyone was in their car, everyone drove by, but it was fun. At Pearl Ridge, they had a candy crawl on October the 30th, and 1,200 keiki were signed up for the candy crawl in 2 days. They had to top it at 1,200. And what they did, they had merchants who dressed up in costume and they stood in the parking lot, and families just drove through the parking lot at Pearl Ridge, and it was a vehicle safe trick or treat event. So it was one of the things we saw. There was huge pent up demand from parents who really wanted to do something joyful for Halloween with their children. Something else, it's not a shopping center, but it happened on Maui this past weekend. So Seabury Hall is the largest private school on Maui. And the students and the faculty put together a super duper haunted house on the grounds of Seabury Hall. Free, people could just drive through and experience this huge haunted house. Well, apparently there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars on the roads on Maui, all going to Seabury Hall. I was talking to someone who said that they got there an hour early. The wait to drive through it was 2 hours, but the family got through all of it. They wound up shutting down the haunted house in the 4th hour because the roads on Maui were in gridlock with all these cars, all these families looking for a fun, festive experience that the family could share. So with that in mind, looking forward, Santa is coming. The holidays are coming. How can you do that safely? Same thing. As we get creative, looking at virtual Santa opportunities, looking at maybe you have a Santa, but he's behind plexiglass, or he's on another area of the property and you're looking at a digital screen, or maybe you have Santa and holiday characters that are maybe they're in a storefront with glass between you, or maybe you have them where they walk around the property with an escort, but you don't have personal contact with them. We're looking at virtual Christmas tree lighting. Maybe you're on Facebook Live and you create a holiday event that people can enjoy on their phones and in their homes. So even looking at the holidays, the attitude is we have to create family-friendly activities. We want to offer our customers that do come to the property safe and friendly alternatives. And as you come to our property, if you are just going to take a carry out, if you do just want to grab and go, you can, and we're taking care of you. So that's a big picture overview on what we're doing with PPE and COVID, and what some of the things that were done for Halloween, brainstorming for the upcoming holiday season. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, it's great to hear about all the creative measures the shopping centers are taking to appeal to the local residents. Our next speaker is going to be Corey Beal. He's the president of the Beal Corporation, a retail real estate company specializing in development, leasing, and management of retail projects throughout the state of Hawaii. Beal Corporation has extensive resort retail leasing and management experience, including with the Outrigger Beach Walk, Shops at Mauna Lani, Queens Marketplace, Coconut Marketplace, Ko'olina Station, and Princeville Center. We'll now hand it over to Corey to discuss the state of the retail commercial real estate market.
Great,
Welcome.
thanks, Masa. Thank you. Thanks for that kind introduction. I appreciate it, and appreciate being invited onto this distinguished panel. Sounds like I've got to update my website. You mentioned a couple projects that we're no longer on. But wanted to start with a little bit of information, more information on the Beal Corporation. Bear with me while I figure out how to share my screen. And Tina, sorry about dropping in on you. I'm a Zoom rookie here. Okay, so like Masa said, we are a real estate property management and leasing company. We're Kaimuki based, boutique firm. We specialize in retail real estate only, and a good chunk of our business is resort retail. And that's why Masa invited me here today, I believe. We're very active in Waikiki, and also very active on all of the major outer islands. Did I stop sharing my screen? Oh boy. Threw me off with the new protocol. Sorry, gang. I need to figure out how to get to the next page. How do I do that, Masa?
Yeah, we can see it now. Try use your arrows. Can you go to either next page or just click right or left? There you go.
Great tip. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Okay, so quick shout out to my team. This is the Beal Corporation, quite frankly. We're a tight-knit group of professionals. We work closely together. We're committed to working as a team. And I'm extremely proud and appreciative of this group. Due to the shortage of time, I can't list everybody there. Sorry, guys. I didn't know about the arrows. This is a quick snapshot of our book of business. I would just want to give you some context. You can see in the lower left that we are very active in Waikiki. We've got a pretty strong list of high-profile clients, including Outrigger, Hilton, Highgate, and Robertson. And we're active on all 4 major islands, even Molokai. We own a small building there. And we also own Old Kaloa Town up on Kauai and up in the upper part of the slide. and we'll talk a little bit about that. All told, we have 30 properties that we either lease and or manage, mostly for others. Some of those we own. Before I got into the outer islands, I wanted to share with you our market report. We put out a quarterly report focused on Waikiki, and we started doing this in the first quarter of 2020, right before the pandemic. And I'm going to share a couple pages with you today. But if you'd like to take a look at that report, feel free to hit me up, email me, and I'll get you a copy, or you can always visit our website at www.thebealcorporation.com. Okay, so getting into that report, and I'm sorry this is so small, it's a page from our report, but you guys know Waikiki. This is Kalakaua Avenue. Specifically, we track 1.7 million square feet on Kalakaua, and that includes upper and lower floor space, so international marketplace for wine, that sort of thing. In our Q1 report, we reported a vacancy rate of 9. And historically, that's an extremely high rate. It's the highest rate I've seen in my career, and it's been creeping up every year for the last couple of years. And it wasn't that long ago, Sam and Paul will both remember, when there was no vacancy on Kalakaua Avenue, and tenants were actually paying premiums to be, or key money to be, on Kalakaua Avenue. So what this tells me anyway, that this market, although there's a lot of demand for it from tenants, is overdue for a rent correction. Although sales are strong, I just think, in short, landlords are asking too much rent at the moment. Okay, now we get into the third quarter. We just published this last week, sent it out last week. You'll see in the upper left-hand corner that we've got a vacancy rate and an availability rate. Very, very similar numbers. Some spaces are vacant but not available, and some are available and not vacant. So we use availability primarily, 17%. That's a staggering number. That should jump out at you. You'll see in the red box at the bottom, that's 300,000 square feet of space that's available on Kalakaua Avenue, including upper and lower floors. It's 108 storefronts that are available, 80 of which are vacant, 28 of which we know are available, but still have a tenant in them. In short, this market has been devastated, as Paul can attest to. And I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be positive here, but I got to report the news. Outer Island situation is certainly no better. Slightly different than Waikiki, significantly different than Waikiki in its customer base. Outer Islands, as most of you probably know, do not get as many eastbound travelers. And our tenant base is primarily locally owned, owner-operator, mom and pop type tenants. Very little safety net, highly reliant on their tenant sales to make money. At the risk of stating the obvious, which is directly tied to visitor arrivals, and it is also directly tied to their ability to pay rent. So I'm going to share a little bit about Okaloa Town because we own it. I can give you some confidential information here, as long as you promise not to share it with anybody. This one we own, pre-COVID, very healthy shopping center or retail environment. I prefer to say it's a cool little town if you haven't been there. 25,000 square feet. Pre-COVID, we had a 10% vacancy rate, but that was really circumstantial, hard to lease space. Today, 8 of our 28 tenants are open for business, and with that, they are limited hours and have let go all their employees and are, for the most part, twiddling their thumbs. Even though we did open a couple weeks ago, we haven't seen a substantial uptick in sales. 5 of our tenants have let us know that they are permanently closing. We expect more of those to come forward pretty soon. So what we're left with is a 30% vacancy compared to 10%. And we have exactly 1 tenant paying full rent, and that's the gas station, essential service. So again, the market has been devastated, and that's where we're at. So to be honest, we're in survival mode as an industry. Government assistance programs have been very helpful. I would say particularly the PPP program. But also the SBA EIDL loans and the city and county grants were all very helpful. We as a company took advantage of them. Most of our tenants did. all the banks I've been working with have been pretty reasonable, I would say. And the landlord-tenant relationship is going through the ultimate stress test. And as Paul attested to, there's a range of attitudes or positions about rent relief for tenants. I can speak as a mom and pop landlord, if you will, that we're extremely empathetic to our tenants. We're realistic, I would say, and also value the relationships that we have with these tenants, and are much more focused on the long-term relationship with them and the exit here than the here and now. We did something I think we're sharing in the beginning of the pandemic when the PPP program came out, is we offered what we called a BOGO to all of our tenants. And we said, if you pay us 1 month's rent, we'll waive 1 month's rent. We'll give you a 2-for-1. So if a tenant paid us May and June, we waived July and August. And if they paid May, June, July, we waived August, September, October. And that was very well received. It helped us tremendously in our cash position to weather the storm, and also was very helpful to the tenants. We're coming up on another round of that. End of October was sort of beginning of November was a new round of rent relief conversations for us. And quite frankly, I spend a lot of my day talking to tenants about rent relief. So recovery, I had a hard time with this page, to be honest with you. When are we going to recover? I would say it's highly dependent on the pandemic trajectory, both globally and locally. I think it bodes really well for us that our case count has been relatively low, and Sam touched on that. I think it's an excellent marketing opportunity, particularly to the eastbound travelers. I'm going to say summer 2021, I'm hopeful we're going to get back to some meaningful visitor numbers and therefore meaningful sales. Christmas season, I'm hopeful, but not overly optimistic that we're going to be moving the needle much. We're using 3 years as a recovery timeframe in primarily our tenant conversations. We're building towards 100% of pre-COVID to 3 years, and I'm expecting a gradual increase to that. I agree with Paul's 50% next summer, hopefully. I also think Outer Island is going to recover quicker than Waikiki for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's more rural environments. Waikiki is a very urban environment, which is not in favor right now. And we've had very low case counts on the Outer Islands, which bodes well for the Outer Islands. And they also have the support of the second home extended stay market, which is a pretty supportive component of their customer base. So those are my thoughts, and I wanted to add a couple thoughts about leasing because that's our role in the recovery effort. So as leasing agents and landlords, it's our position that we need to accept this. My position that we need to accept that current market rent is zero. That's to say, if you signed a lease with someone today, you probably would be kidding yourself to think you're going to get rent in November and December. How long that plays out, I'm not too sure, but we are actually in the recovery mode in Koloa town, and that actually kind of skips to my next point, which is there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come out of this. There's an awful lot of turnkey spaces, lots of turnkey restaurants in Waikiki, Outer Island. We've got a bunch of them to lease, and what we're doing with that is targeting those restaurants and tenants that we think will do well in that environment, and going out and approaching them with the deal that we know we need to make in order to make that deal. So we're talking percentage rent only for a period of time, short term in nature to mitigate against that. We don't want to agree to that for a long term. And I'm also a big fan of percentage rent converters. I don't want to get too real estate-y on you, as Masa asked, but we basically are going to convert percentage rent to base rent as their sales increase. Banks like that. So that's what I got. That's my take. Again, appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to the Q&A. I know Masa's got some zinger questions for me, if I can figure out how to stop sharing my screen. So there we go.
All right, Corey, thank you so much. Those insights were really interesting, especially on the centers that you have outer islands. Can't wait to hear the Q&A, so I appreciate that. So our final speaker today is going to be Melly James. Melly James is a co-founder at Mana Up. Mana Up is an initiative to expand economic opportunity, business infrastructure, and higher wage jobs in Hawaii. Its 6-month accelerator program enables Hawaii products entrepreneurs to scale their businesses globally. Mana Up operates a retail business, House of Mana Up, to connect people to local brands. Additionally, she is president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, an organization that seeks to foster entrepreneurial development through education, networking, and access to capital. Aloha, Melly, and thanks for joining us today. Go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone. I'll jump right in as I know we're getting short on time. So I'm Melly James, again, co-founder of Mana Up. I'm going to go through some slides. We represent about 51 companies that are all locally based here. And to kind of speak to Tina's point earlier on economic impact, we're big believers in locally headquartered companies here that can create that economic impact with more dollars circulating. We know there's been big shifts with fewer tourists coming in, fewer dollars coming into the state. And so I'm excited to share more on what we're seeing some of our companies are doing, not only what they've learned in the pandemic, but also how they're coming out of this as tourism reopens. So I will go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, great. So let's view present. Okay, can everyone see okay? Okay, hopefully that means yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so Mana Up at a glance, we launched our economic development initiative and accelerator back in 2018. We run a 6-month accelerator program helping local businesses grow and scale to global markets. And these are some quick stats around the companies that we work with. And then also looking a little bit at the economic impact. 41 of our companies last year represented $38 million to the state of Hawaii, about 325 jobs, and about 700,000 exports and growing. So this is some of the criteria that we work with our companies, as I mentioned earlier. The Hawaii-based founder and headquarters is super important. We work with consumer packaged goods companies that are elevating the brand of Hawaii. They have to be at a certain revenue minimum, and storytelling and the quality of the product are really, really impactful and big. So you guys may recognize some of these Hawaii companies, Hawaiian Pie Co., Manoa Chocolate, amongst others. But this gives a nice representation of some of the perspective that I'll be coming from as I go through some of these slides, that about 50% of our companies are value-add food products, non-perishable. And then we've got fashion, home, and health and beauty. So we work with Sam and Monty and everyone at the Royal Hawaiian Festival. And to Corey's point earlier, we've been very grateful for our relationship with our landlords and getting very creative with marketing. We're actually in the video Sam shared earlier. We opened in 2019 our House of Mana Up store at the Royal Hawaiian on the ground floor, across from Tiffany. And then of course had to subsequently shut down in March. And these are just a few pictures of what the store looked like. These are things were going very well, really around storytelling, around the entrepreneurs. And we had to shift to e-commerce. And, with that, getting really creative around how do we do media marketing partnerships, joint social media campaign. We hadn't really been online, and many of our companies prior to COVID had way more emphasis on retail, especially in tourist industries. And those were the companies that got hit extra hard. So some of them are almost starting from scratch to be building up their email marketing, to be getting more established in Instagram, as well as Facebook and other online. And I would say that regardless of tourism coming back, e-commerce and digital marketing direct to consumer is really leveling the playing field for a lot of our companies here, where you can be anywhere. And we don't have to have people physically come into the store as the only place for them to discover these products and these stores. And so as retail starts to shift, and we opened our doors for our store about 2 weeks ago at the Royal, things are picking up a little bit. And so we're glad that we can be back open. But we're also seeing there's a huge opportunity with direct to consumer and that power that we have, that even when someone's in the store, they're opening up their phone. They're in 2 seconds going onto Facebook or Instagram, researching the company. What do they stand for?
Melly,
Yes.
sorry, this is Masa. I'm sorry to interrupt. We've gotten a couple of reports that the screen's not advancing. Would you be able to try to go into the presentation mode, and then I'll let you know if it's moving.
Okay, let's get out of the presentation mode.
Yeah, or if on the Google Doc you go to present, I think that'll make it a full screen.
Okay, hold on a second. All right.
Yeah, it's stuck on the first page.
Oh, is it? Okay, thank you. Let's see. I'm gonna stop screen share for a second. Okay, is that better? Is that gone?
Yep, we see your desktop.
Yeah, looks good.
now.
Looks good.
Should I just keep it like that and don't do full present mode? Or should I go into, is that still
Yeah,
showing?
try the present mode. That should be good.
Is that showing everything?
Yep, we're good now.
Yep, looks good.
So this are just more visuals as to what I was talking about. Just want to up at a glance. Our accelerator criteria, some of our companies, which you can now see the logos, as well as our House of Mana Up retail location, and that we opened in 2019. And here's just some fun photos of the inside of the store, which again, really grateful for our great relationship with Festival and the Royal Hawaiian and Kamehameha Schools. So as I mentioned, we shifted gears to e-com when we had to shut our doors in March. And I'm going to be sharing some of our lessons learned with e-commerce tools, and also couldn't implore more as we were reopening tourism that e-commerce and direct-to-consumer digital marketing are not knee-jerk reactions just to COVID. I think these are tactics that we should have been implementing the whole time. We should have had way more presence online, as again, this does level the playing field. And I think this will be a strategy for future-proofing more of our businesses here in the islands, that we can perhaps even double sales when retail comes back, and now you've got much more presence online. That's some of the possible silver lining around what we've learned and what I hope many other companies have learned during this time. So just some, and I know this is being recorded, so I may go a little fast, but you guys can always go back with these slides. So obviously Facebook is a huge must, kind of looking here as to what you should be sharing, how many times a week. We think 2 or 3 times a week on Facebook. Instagram is a different story, but these are really, really powerful ways of not only sharing new promotions with what you're doing, sales, but also sharing who you are. This Instagram for business is very important too. This is beyond just regular Instagram, and I couldn't emphasize more why this is important to get on the Instagram for business. Instagram for business, you should be posting a lot more. And again, this is how people, even in the store, you're seeing them on their phone, they're looking up who you are. Millennials are 4 times more likely to buy now from a micro brand than a legacy brand. Those are all things that are really shifting the playing field for a lot of our local businesses here, as in the past it had all been about legacy companies, and that's not the case anymore. So people want to know who you are and help them figure that out quickly as they're making these purchasing decisions, or even making them later once they discover your product in the store or online. These are some ways to optimize your Instagram, whether that be creating more of a compelling bio, researching hashtags, and those things that could be more essential. Typography is a great free app that really helps with photos and other things that we really like using. Like I was saying earlier, narrative and storytelling is huge to tell your story. And these are some great examples of what are the kinds of things you can be sharing. What was your mission when you started the company? How are your products different? What's your why? Different stories like that really resonate with people, especially now as there are a lot more people that aren't as in social situations. So they're really looking to online to get behind company and really understand what they're about. So this is an example of storytelling. This is Aloha Modern, one of our cohort 5 companies. And this is a little bit much for just the average product, but it's a great sample of story and why and how it can be incredibly important. Here's some other essentials around product photography, looking at lighting, angles, the background. This is an example of, which one do you think looks better? And it's pretty obvious here, but if you just took a shot of your product and then, you can see really the difference in what the care you need to put behind those things. Playing with composition, aspirational, more lifestyle photos, so how people can use the products, more that Hawaii lifestyle, people are missing that. How do we keep Hawaii front of mind and stay connected? These are all important. More kind of behind the scenes. So this is Manoa Chocolate making their chocolate over in Kailua. So that's a great social media planning tool. We use this all the time. I also really recommend this. It's great to be organized for scheduling. As you start to post more, it becomes a little bit overwhelming to try to just do it like, oh, I should post today. It gets a little bit beyond that. So this is a great tool to use. We use Shopify for our platform. They're one of our partners. And we also heavily recommend Shopify, as many of these apps are on the Shopify platform and literally can help you make money in your sleep. Klaviyo is another great email marketing campaign. This is kind of like MailChimp on crack. So with MailChimp, you're just kind of sending emails. With Klaviyo, they become flows based on how someone's engaged with you on your website. Or they're purchasing, we may have an open cart. All of these things are very different. And so what Klaviyo does is understands and puts them into a flow based on what they've done in your site. And it makes it a lot more custom, or feels a lot more custom, and ideally creates that action that you're trying to create for that person. Here are some other kind of things that we've learned around our House of Mana Up is, make it personal. And then this is something else we did. In February, we went to Japan, right when COVID was like just starting to become a real thing. We went there to open up some doors in Japan with Prince Hotels, Natural Lawson's, Lawson convenience stores, as well as many others to open up doors for more of our local products to come into the country. So I'll stop sharing my screen now. And so we're excited to answer some questions, but also happy to share also about any other tools and things that we've learned along the way. So thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much, Melly. Yeah, it's great to hear about some of the resources that are out there to help some of the retailers to kind of enhance their e-commerce platform and get the customer touch points. And thank you all to all of our speakers for sharing the informational updates on the retail environment today. Next up is our panel discussion. We'll be asking questions in the same order as we presented today. If I could have all of the panelists turn their videos on. If you could then please limit your answers to just under 2 minutes so we can get through a handful of questions. And we do have a couple of audience questions we'd like to get to as well. But I'll go ahead and start then with Tina. Our first question to you is, the retail industry has been one of the Hawaii success stories in creating safe retail environments for employees and shoppers. Does the industry have a set of infection rate tiers similar to how public schools have implemented here? And will that eventually allow retailers to lift restrictions, or what's the way ahead there?
It's not, unfortunately, it's not up to the retailers to lift the restrictions or decide what the occupancy is. It's, up to the counties and the state right now. And it's right now we're, especially on Oahu, I think we're in the second tier. We're still at the 50% mark right now. And we get it. There have been hot spots, but it's never, ever been, knock on wood, in the retail industry. Yes, we've had employees who've had COVID, but we've shut our retails down. We cleaned up everything, we made it safe. We let everybody know about it. And, we let customers and our employees back into a safe environment.
Thank you for that, Tina. Mm-hmm. Our next question is for Paul. Paul, what advice would you give to retail owners and operators to lead their teams during these challenging times?
Wow. Tell them that the sun always rises in the morning. If that doesn't happen, oh boy, we're in big trouble. I think it's hard to be creative. I think Melly gave some really good tips, that if you're a retailer and you have a unique product or products, then you can uh, go online, try e-commerce to try to sell your products. Um, Other than that, if your business, if you're in the resort industry, it's pretty tough because you need the visitors to as your customers. That's your revenue generator. If you're in the local market, then it's a matter of combining some marketing savvy with curbside pickup, and online sales. You got to do some promotions using social media platforms to drive customers to your store. And of course, have a great attitude. You have to be friendly. You have to. You may have mailing lists or email lists that you can use to encourage customers to come in and shop. Um, and of course, negotiate with your landlord, negotiate with your financial institutions. Uh, just tell them that you just need a little bit of space, a little forbearance, just to get you through until this pandemic thing slows down. If they can just have a little bit of faith in you, then you will pay dividends back to them. So that'd be my advice.
Thank you. Our next question is for Sam. This question was actually submitted by a 2021 executive MBA candidate at the Shidler College of Business. Her name is Michelle Ota. So for Sam, following the lead of grocery stores, will retailers consider special hours for high-risk individuals or for travelers, such as how Foodland Farms and Whole Foods has like the Kapuna hours? Do any individual retailers offer anything like that?
Well, it depends on your property. Like here at Royal Hawaiian Center, the only essential retailer we have is Paul. We have an ABC store that is essential because he has food. But what we do, many of our stores make appointments. So if you, for example, you want to go into Kate Spade, or if you go, Apple already does it. But many of our stores, you can make an appointment and they will make sure that at the appointed time, you have a dedicated salesperson and they stay with you and you can get all the service that you need. I would love to have lines of people like you see at the grocery store. That would be awesome. But we don't have that level of retail, but we do VIP appointments, we do by appointment shopping, and it's very popular. One thing I'll throw in real quick, our luxury stores have been doing good, steady business, not where they were, but one of the reasons for that is that you do have a higher income luxury customer. They're not doing anything. They're not traveling. They're not really going anywhere. And so they will come in and do some shopping because it's convenient. And again, that VIP personal service that they get.
Thanks, Sam. Our next question is for Corey Beal. This is from Robert Field, a 2021 executive MBA candidate. With increasing pressure from online retailers, what should local retailers be doing to adapt to the current environment?
Well, there's the obvious things. Embrace social media for sure. You got to be on social media from a marketing component, and to an extent, you need to be omni-channel these days and have a selling presence on online. But I would say that is much less applicable to resort retail. Paul mentioned in his first report that he has a very small percentage of sales online. That makes sense. I mean, it's a foot traffic business, and that's where the bulk of resort retailers' business comes from. So yes, you need to adapt and be online. I would also say you need to be highly promotional and have something to advertise so that you it doesn't just get lost in the cloud and give people a reason to come. That goes for landlords as well. We the landlords in resort retail settings we really should be creating promotions that we can then advertise on online and take advantage of the online opportunity. Coconut Marketplace, which we work with Paul on, we have a drive-in movie every Friday, and it's very, very popular, and we get a lot of hits on it on Instagram and Facebook. So
great. And Corey, actually, we got one question from the audience that was addressed to you. And I'll actually break this up into a couple parts because it's a handful of questions. And the question is, do you see Hawaii well positioned to have a better recovery than the continent due to our relatively low COVID rates?
That's a ridiculous question. Is that Dolan? No, just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's a great marketing angle for us. We have an opportunity to protect our border with the airport. I think it would be very easy for us to implement rapid testing at the airport, both ends of the airport. That also would apply to sporting events and concerts and whatnot when we get closer to that reality. But yeah, I think we've got a tremendous opportunity, especially as it relates to the eastbound travelers who they're very sensitive to that. And I think that's a real big marketing opportunity for us, is to promote that, and number one, and also make it a reality. We got to be real careful about our case count.
Got it. And because there are a couple portions of this, I thought maybe Tina or Sam could address this part. What can Hawaii do now to be better positioned to be considered a safe destination?
Well, I'll jump in. It isn't what we're going to do now. It's what we have to do consistently for months, is keep our counts down, stay, get into tier 4, and hopefully get out of a tier, and where the local community, the people that come here, they're respectful, they wear the mask, they socially distance, they follow the rules, and we really have to, for months, really work hard at controlling COVID. That's what we have to do. And you see it on the mainland with these huge breakouts. One of the challenges, you have asymptomatic younger people. They're in their 20s and their 30s. They don't know that they're sick. And they're just going out and they're spreading COVID to their friends, their family members, and all of that. So we really have to consistently, for months and months and months, until there's a vaccine, we have to be very, very careful and follow the rules.
Yeah, it sounds like communicating the safety and those procedures that are being implemented is as important as the actual safety that's being implemented.
Oh yeah, that came up real quick. That came up with the governor and the mayors, where there's people walking in Waikiki and they're not wearing a mask. And why aren't they wearing a mask? And so, and communication is critical. And we probably need to do a better job. In the shopping centers, you have to wear a mask. Security will nicely come up to you and tell you, please put one on. But on the sidewalks, we all have to work on it together.
All right, and for my portion, my last question is for Melly. You're also the president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association. Have there been any recent startups in retail that have impressed you, or are there any trends in new businesses happening?
Thanks. I would say, a few of the startups I mentioned in my earlier presentation, but other ones would be more around direct to consumer or data. So that would be online marketplaces like Thrive or Fair or Fashwire. Some of them aren't quite really startups anymore, but we're really seeing the trend in these marketplaces, curated places that also come along with data that in the past, especially in retail, had been a dark space where a lot of the vendors had no idea where their sales were going or things like that could help them make better decision-making around marketing as well.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, Scott, I'll hand it over to you for round 2.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Masa. So this question, Tina, is for you. We've heard that this year, the holiday shipping needs will be a historic high. What do retailers need to do to ensure that they can ship products in time? And will there be an opportunity for in-store shopping in December, since there could be possible shipping issues?
I think that's a great question. And, like I said, we are seeing a lot more people buying online and either, wanting to have it shipped to their home or, they can pick it up at the store. We also know that with Young Brothers, they've increased shipping to the neighbor islands, at least almost up to 50%. So that's going to have an impact not only on the neighbor islands, but on Oahu too. So it's ordering, if you're going to order online, order early to make sure that you get it in time, or order online and pick it up at the store. That's the best thing to do right now.
Yeah, great. I'd also like to remind all the retailers out there in e-commerce land, Chinese New Year, don't forget that's coming up too, and that could also shift your production quite a bit as we move through the new year. So thank you, Tina. Moving on to Paul. Paul, this question is from Kimmy Straub, Executive MBA 2021. You mentioned briefly earlier in the presentation about supply chain. Kimmy wants to know, will supply chain disruption lead to more locally produced goods on the market? If so, can you elaborate on that?
I hope so, particularly in agriculture. There's local farms that produce incredibly good products, produce, fruits. When the visitor industry shut down, the hotels, the restaurants all shut down, the farmers were in a kind of a dilemma in that they had all this product, which they needed they needed people to buy it. So they got creative and they started having these food boxes or produce boxes, fruit boxes that they could sell to directly to the consumer. If we can get more land dedicated to agriculture and more people interested in farming, I think that's a great thing for our community, that we can have sustainable, at least approaching a sustainable source of food to our population here. And the restaurants and the retailers and the hotels, if they would buy more from them, if they have the capacity, that would be a terrific supply chain, because then you lower the fossil fuel footprint also. We import a lot of stuff, and I think it's important that we find ways, as far as diversifying our economy, to locally source more products. And I think Melly's Mana-Up company plays an important role in providing startup capital for many of these entrepreneurs that can do that.
Great, thanks, Paul. Sam, this question is for you. There have been many changes to shopping centers this year. What is the most positive permanent change that will always be a part of the Royal Hawaiian Center identity in the future?
It's funny, and it's not. 2020 is the 40th anniversary of the Royal Hawaiian Center. We opened in 1980. And I think one of the things, it had been there, but it really evolved once we were able to open back up in May. But even before that, walking the center, talking with the merchants, talking with the restaurants on the carry-out business they were doing. Then as retail opened up, it sounds corny, but our communications with each other continued to get better and to evolve, as working with the merchants, trying to help as it related to rent relief, working with the merchants with PPE, getting curbside set up, all those different things. So it's kind of like we've been here, and going forward, that we can serve both locals and we can serve visitors, and we can kind of treasure our culture, our Hawaiian culture, and make sure that we stay committed to hospitality because we're in Waikiki. Great.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely great insights there, Sam. I just got an audience question in, and this one is directed at Paul. So Paul, audience member wants to know, what do you recommend tenants who have multiple leases with various landlords do when they negotiate? Do you have any tips? I think this is pretty useful.
Well, if you stop paying rent, you'll get the attention of the landlord. So my challenge has been, and my recommendation is to try to talk to ownership. So I know, Sam, it's been a little difficult working at Royal Hawaiian Shopping Center, but I did get relief from Royal Hawaiian Shopping Center, but I had to talk to ownership, which means there's a property manager typically, and that's Sam's group. But there are many landlords that are willing to work things out with their tenants, because they don't want a tenant to go away and go in dark space, right? Because that doesn't do them any good. They don't get any money. So it's in their best interest to try to find ways, like Corey did, in working with the tenants. And you have to be a little careful, and the careful part is it's confidential. So if you have multiple locations, you have to make the landlord feel comfortable that whatever they're doing for you doesn't get out, because landlords want to, they're doing it for you, right? So, and they may not do it for others. So it takes a lot of work. Just like Corey, most of my time is spent working with landlords. And for the most part, if you get to have a conversation with them, it takes a little time. They will do something. They will do something.
Okay, great. Thanks, Paul. And we're going to continue. We've got 2 more questions here. This one's directed at Corey. Corey, are there any existing retail trends that may have been accelerated because of the pandemic?
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. I know we're quick on time, so I'll answer that quickly. The short answer is yes, starting with weaker tenants or exposed tenants pre-COVID closing. That's the first one, is going into the pandemic. That's accelerating their closing, and operators that are ready to retire. Inferior locations are definitely trends that are accelerated by pre-COVID. I would say that Alan Wong has a terrible location. It's on the 3rd floor, and he survived up there based on his merits for much longer than I would have thought. And then there's a lot of things, especially in the restaurant business, takeout, delivery, ordering online. Let's see, adding deli counters, drive-throughs are, they were coveted before pre-COVID. All these things were, coronavirus has made them even more valuable. So yeah, that's absolutely, we're talking about an accelerator of trends that were already happening for the most part, except for maybe wearing masks and sanitizer stations. I think it's mostly pre-COVID trends.
Sure. Okay. Last question here goes to Melly. Mana Up is hosting a global online broadcast to support Hawaii's up-and-coming entrepreneurs on November 20th. Can you give some audience insights into this and elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so we normally host a huge event at DFS, and as many of you guys heard, DFS is closing its doors for the time being. And so, with a little bit of that silver lining, we thought, well, why should we be limited to hosting a 1,000-person event at DFS, where people had to physically be here to experience and learn about our entrepreneurs and new stories about Hawaii? And so how do we utilize this to create a global stage for Hawaii and bring Hawaii to the world? How do we keep Hawaii front of mind, keep Hawaii, that we're bigger, badder, better than ever, and to keep us in mind for near future visitor and tourism. So I'm actually going to share my screen for a moment. I know we're tight on time, but share a short video. It's very short, I promise. And this gives a nice little snapshot of the event. And the sound should come on in a second.
Connect live with entrepreneurs who are bringing Hawaii to the world. Join us at the Mana Up Showcase, presented live from the Hawaii Theater. Hawaii's rising entrepreneurs present their passion.
I saw it as an opportunity and I took it.
Don't miss the Mana Up Showcase, Friday, November 20th.
So that's it. We hope you can join us. It's going to be televised on KHON as well as live stream on Hawaiian Airlines, Kings Hawaiian, our channel, Hawaii Theater. So we're excited to be, bringing Hawaii to the world. So thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Definitely engaging conversation today. And I was certainly able to get a lot of information out of that. So thank you to all the panelists. Masa, over to you.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for again, everybody. If we could ask you to turn your cameras off now, and we're going to send it back to Toby and Sandy for the parting remarks. And thanks to everybody for attending.
Toby, what are you eating? Is that bread black?
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
This is the charcoal panda sauce, part of the chef box that you can order from the salt. Keep calm with it. Black bread.
Oh, that looks delicious. I'll definitely have to check that out in the Chef's Box by Waihata website, or I'll follow their Instagram at the Chef's Box, at the Chef's Box. I think it's time we put that aside and welcome everyone back. Thank you for your questions. They were on point and exactly what we needed to hear.
Yes, they were. As we mentioned, these free webinars are brought to you by the University of Hawaii, Shidler College of Business, and the Travel Industry Management Alumni Associations. If you've been enjoying any of these webinars, please consider giving a donation to our college's Shidler Strong campaign at shidlerhawaii.edu/strong.
Now, if you would like to rewatch any part of this webinar, a recording will be posted online at shidler.hawaii.edu/reopening tourism. You will also find all our previous webinars there. Please feel free to share our videos with others who you think will get informational value from these webinars.
Registration for our next webinar, Impacts in the Restaurant and Food Industry, will begin tomorrow morning. It'll be next week, Tuesday from 11:30 to 1. Our speakers are from the Hawaii Restaurant Association, TS Restaurants, owner of Duke's Waikiki Hula Grill, Russell Hata, and our food spotlight will be on Chef Peter Merriman and Chris Kajioka. You'll receive email and registration information shortly.
Thank you to our panelists for sharing your guidance and providing us with hope as we move forward through this time together. And thank you to all those in attendance. We appreciate your questions and all that you are doing to reopen our economy safely. See you next week.